Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:30 a.m. Saturday, November the 1st. Happy November, happy Saturday, happy weekend as well. And just a reminder to you, if you live somewhere that still deals with daylight saving time, like I do here in Alberta, when you go to bed tonight, it's fallback time. Put your clock back an hour and you'll gain an extra hour of sleep tonight. This comes to you as a public service announcement from the John Bolton channel here on YouTube. Okay, so today's topic kind of has two meanings for me. It's I want a new country. And those of you who come here often know I want Alberta to be a new country. And some of these things make me want it even more, particularly the first one, which I'm not going to delve into deeply because it's disturbing, it's disgusting, it's disgraceful. But I have to live in Canada until Alberta becomes an independent country. So here's our first story today. I don't want to take too long on this. You might have to read along with me because I'm going to skip some words because YouTube will flag this video and it won't get recommended. Supreme Court striking down 1-year mandatory sentence for child P possession prompts calls for Liberals to overrule. Canada's top court narrowly ruled Friday to strike down 1-year mandatory minimum sentence requirement for the possession and access of child after examining the punishment's impact on a hypothetical 18-year-old involved in sexting. This has nothing to do with sexting. The case, which was heard by a 9-judge panel, involved a challenge to the sentencing rules brought forward by 2 men in Quebec who pleaded guilty to having hundreds of images of children as young as 3 being... What's wrong with this country? What's wrong with this country? We actually have some people who are sensible. The decision prompted swift backlash from elected Conservatives across the country. On X, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe wrote that the ruling was why he believed elected legislatures, not unelected judges, ought to make laws. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Ontario Premier Doug Ford called the Liberals to keep the 1-year mandatory sentence in place by using the notwithstanding clause. That's why we have it, folks. Because of this. That's why it was written into the Constitution. Despite the fact what people are saying about the teacher strike here in Alberta, which would mean reintroducing the measure in legislation. These people are predators, disgusting scumbags who prey on children, belong behind bars for the rest of their miserable lives, Ford wrote on X. Thank you, Doug Ford. The notwithstanding clause was designed to protect the will of the people. The federal government needs to use it to overturn this decision immediately. And now here's the thing. These are not young offenders. Why do we not know the names of these 2 men in Quebec? One's 28, the other's in his mid-30s. Why do we not know? Are we protecting them for some reason, like maybe their ethnicity? I'm just saying. But we should know the names of these 2 scumbags, as Doug Ford calls them. I can't believe this is possible. I want a new country. Next up, we have Mark Nixon here. Follow Mark. Breaking, Mark Carney's dirty laundry just got dragged into the House of Commons. MP Michael Barrett exposed Carney's conflict of interest with Brookfield, a firm that dodged $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes. He's under committee investigation now. Will this end Carney's career in politics?
Revelations at the Ethics Committee have exposed the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, as one of Canada's largest tax dodgers. Leading tax transparency experts show that Brookfield avoided an incredible $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes through the use of offshore tax havens over just 5 years.
Is anything going to happen here? Will this end Carney's career in politics? No, this is business as usual, folks. I mean, it's just unbelievable that this can happen. You know what the Conservatives should be doing? Particularly when it comes to the budget that's coming up. Carney's going to promise all this investing, which is spending your money. He's going to invest your money, folks. And they should take David over at Moose on the Loose, who has this massive graph, tentacles of Mark Carney's business dealings. And they should go to David and say, well, when Carney's spending Canadian taxpayers' money, how does this get traced back to Mark Carney so he can fill his pockets? That's all they have to do. They're going to sit in this committee and nothing will be accomplished. Nothing. This will continue. And somebody needs to pass a law because we're in uncharted territory with Mark Carney. What is it, 112 conflicts of interest? And he says he hasn't got any control over his investments. He knows exactly what's going on. Then we got this piece of crap. Listen to this. I'll read her post. Today we'll be introducing my bill that aims to address residential school denialism. We must uphold the dignity and safety of survivors, families, and communities.
Hello, my name is Leah Gazan. I'm the NDP MP for Winnipeg Centre. Today I will be reintroducing my bill to recognize residential school denialism as a form of inciting hate.
So this is a story from Juno News. NDP MP reintroduces bill to jail people for residential school denialism, which includes the grave hoax, folks. If passed, the offense could carry a maximum sentence of 2 years in prison if prosecuted by indictment or a lesser penalty under summary conviction. Gazan originally tabled a version of the bill in 2022, but it failed to advance past first reading. She reintroduced the legislation Friday amid ongoing concerns about the spread of disinformation and inflammatory commentary surrounding residential school history, including unmarked graves. There's more laws coming down the road when it comes to your speech, folks. And don't think because something like this is ridiculous, it won't get passed. Up next, we've got this. Breaking: President Trump says he will not be resuming negotiations with Canada and says Mark Carney apologized to him over the ad. Of course he did. That's what the question is. You don't hear, it's hard to hear off the top, but listen to what he says here.
What did you talk about with Prime Minister Carney? Are you, like Canada, going to resume negotiations?
No, but I have a very good relationship. I like him a lot. But you know what they did was wrong. He was very nice. He apologized for what they did with the commercial.
So he apologized. Jing Leahy here saying Mark Carney bent the knee again and still hasn't secured a trade deal. Nice going Liberals, elbows down. This matters not to the people who support Mark Carney. They don't care. They hate Mark Carney more than Mark Carney bending the knee and appearing as a beta male here. I'm sure Donald Trump sees this as a weakness. Now, the question I have for you is, and I've been thinking about this, is Mark Carney, the Liberal Party, the Conservatives as well, and everybody else in the House of Commons sacrificing industry in the country to protect the dairy lobby in Quebec? You're seeing piece by piece, bits and pieces of the automotive industry disappear in Ontario. Doug Ford's in love with Mark Carney. But I'm wondering if they were to say, listen, Donald, we're willing to negotiate when it comes to dairy. Do you think Donald Trump would negotiate a deal and we'd be in a better position? Because he's pissed off about dairy. You do remember when he said this.
In Canada, you know, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of. But under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult.
So he's pissed off about dairy and we're sacrificing the automotive industry. What was the story I did last week? 86,000 jobs have been lost? And we still haven't got a deal? The problem is now, Bloc Québécois Supply Management Bill moves swiftly through Parliament. This is law now. We can't negotiate this anymore. It would actually bring down dairy prices for you across the country if they were to renegotiate this deal. But what this is about is protectionism, protecting Quebec, because that's the vote-rich part of the country. And people like myself in Alberta that see the East completely control what goes on in this country because that's who elects the Liberals, are making it harder for us to afford our lives, the cost of living. Up next, we've got this story, a little Alberta-centric here. Oops, unlike Alberta cabinet members who made bad decisions, looks like Alberta students understand the rule of law. Landowners, teachers, and students have been cast aside by this government. Who's next as we slide down the slippery slope to anarchy? Mr. Doran, stop throwing words around like anarchy and fascist. You know, these words just don't have any meaning anymore because it's not anarchy. Danielle Smith and the UCP government gave a good offer to the teachers out here in Alberta. Was it 12% over 3 or 4 years? A good offer. They're going to build a lot of schools, hire a lot of teachers. The Alberta Teachers Association didn't come back with a good counter proposal. And they finally said the kids have to go back to school. Now here we have a bunch of kids, little activist kids, no doubt their parents tell them to go out and yell at us.
Strike! Right to strike! Right to strike! Right to strike! Right to strike!
So you get a couple of hundred kids out here yelling right to strike. This is the big news story right now because you got to go after Danielle Smith. Meanwhile, 700,000 kids are back in school where they belong, learning again. You got this one, another Alberta-centric one, but Alberta moves forward with provincial police force. Yeah, we want to get rid of the RCMP. This guy Derek says they have exactly zero mandate to do this. What are you talking about? I want this. They have millions who want this. That's what I said. Kristen says a majority government is a mandate. This guy says, oh, yes, they do. They have a majority government. This is what I want. Danielle Smith should have been moving on this when she got elected. This is taking far too long. I also want an Alberta pension plan. That's what I want. It would be better off for myself and my family to have an Alberta pension plan. And people like the guy who wrote that post don't understand this. Trudeau pushes for RCMP reform during final days in office. That's why Danielle Smith is moving forward with this. In an interview, Trudeau told CBC News that the RCMP is strained and that he's been trying to do this since the very beginning to change the way it works in Canada. The report published on the Public Safety Canada website made 4 key recommendations, one of which said the government should separate contract and federal policing budgets and work closely with provinces to support a transition away from contract policing. Alberta contracts the RCMP. That's what getting our own police force is about. And folks, if you didn't know it, Quebec has its own police force, Ontario has its own police force, other provinces have it. Why not Alberta? I want a new country. I want Alberta to be a new country, and as long as I live in Canada, this kind of nonsense has to stop. Tell me what you think. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good weekend.